So welcome everyone. We are going to start the earthquake presentation, and we are excited to have Yvette LaDuke from the California Office of Emergency Services here with us to do the presentation. Some of you may have met Yvette at this year's Fire and Earthquake Safety Expo. They had a booth there. So welcome, Yvette, and I turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I almost forgot to unmute myself. So thank you for the invitation to speak to all of you today. I'm going to talk a little bit about your earthquake hazard there in Sonoma County, and then some ways that we can find out when earthquakes, or at least get a little warning as to when earthquakes are going to occur or impact us, and then also some preparedness information. Gotta figure out how to advance there we go. So this is the earthquake faults that are in Sonoma County, and in parentheses it shows the year that an earthquake occurred within that area and also the magnitude. So you can take a look and see where a large number of earthquakes have impacted your county. Some higher magnitude, some definitely lower magnitude. If you look in the northeastern corner, kind of moving towards Lake County, you'll see there's definitely a high volume of magnitude for earthquakes that have impacted that area, and I'll talk about why that is in a little bit. Along the Rogers Creek fault zone, so that orange line kind of going up in the middle, you can see there's been some activity in that area. In fact, that's where the most recent magnitude 4.4 and 4.3 earthquake events occurred last month. And then also you have the San Andreas Fault, which is to the left of your screen, which is that red line going up and down, which goes offshore and onshore as it goes throughout the county. And then also the Makama Fault, and I apologize if I've mispronounced that, but that one also extends up, and that's kind of that northernmost extension of the Hayward Fault. As it moves up through Sonoma County. So that gives you kind of a good picture of historic events that have happened in Sonoma and neighboring counties and areas that have contributed to seismic activity throughout the county. So as we mentioned on that slide, one of the major faults running through Sonoma County is the San Andreas Fault. That fault starts down in Imperial County in Southern California near the Salton Sea and extends up throughout our state, and then offshore as it hits Northern California. For Sonoma County, the fault comes on shore near Fort Ross through the Guala River area and offshore at Point Arena. This was the genesis of the 1906 magnitude 7.9 earthquake, which caused some damage in downtown Santa Rosa and throughout the county. And in that slide, or the picture on the slide on the right side, you can kind of see the fault as it goes through the county. You can see that little depression in the land in that photo there. So this is a strike slip fault. So basically the two faults move like this. So they're sliding past each other up and down the state. So the other fault that we saw was the orange fault line that ran kind of north and south through more of the central area of the county. It's the main strand of the North American and Pacific Plate boundaries, which is north of the San Francisco Bay Area. Again, this one is a strike slip fault, meaning that the faults are sliding past each other this way with an annual slip rate of about 6 to 10 millimeters. So this fault has a 33% chance of a larger than a magnitude 6.7 earthquake in the next 30 years, and that 30-year time frame is 2014 to 2043. So an earthquake of that magnitude will result in some surface fault rupture and also very strong ground shaking. So this fault also was home to the magnitude 5.6 and 5.7 earthquakes near Santa Rosa in 1969, and also the recent, as I mentioned, 4.4 and 4.3 magnitude earthquakes. So you can see in these photos some of the impacts that this earthquake has had throughout the county on the land. So this is kind of a photo of the Santa Rosa earthquakes that occurred. It shows where they were located on the Rogers Creek Fault, as I mentioned, and you can see kind of in that center picture with the blue, it shows the magnitude, not the magnitude, but the intensity of the shaking that occurred in that area. So not really strong earthquakes, but definitely felt by a lot of folks. So the Makama Fault Zone is the northernmost segment of the Hayward Fault system, as I mentioned. It extends near Laytonville in Mendocino County till Marquest Creek in Sonoma County. The fault movement is about 5.6 to 7.6 millimeters per year, and the most recent deformation event on this fault occurred between 1520 AD and 1650 AD. So a long time ago as far as people years, but really in geological years, not so long ago. And that was determined based on radiocarbon dated faulted and unfaulted alluvium. So the Clear Lake volcanic field, so magma through this area, and this is kind of Lake County area, but the reason I'm mentioning this Clear Lake volcanic field is because it is located immediately adjacent to the geysers, which I know most of you are familiar with in Sonoma County. And so this volcanic field, although the geysers are not a part of this volcanic field per se, this volcanic field directly impacts activity that goes on in the geysers area. So this magma moves through the earth and it displaces and fractures rock and causes a lot of low magnitude earthquakes. Most of them are lower than a magnitude 3. So we see a lot of increased activity in this area, but again, it doesn't generally result in the higher magnitude earthquakes. We call those that increased activity earthquake swarms, and that is something that my agency, along with the California Geological Survey, we do monitor this area for that activity. And again, most of the activity is concentrated beneath the volcano, but it does impact that surrounding area. So there's been no eruption in several millennia. However, again, within this geothermal field, we will continue to see that increased activity. So we've talked a lot about our hazard. How do we know that these earthquakes are coming and going to impact us? While we cannot predict earthquakes, we do have California's earthquake early warning system now that can provide us with a few seconds of notification that an earthquake is going to impact us. The notification that we receive is determined by how far we are from the earthquake's epicenter. So the further out you are, the more seconds of warning you may receive of an earthquake event. So the earthquake alerts are available through the App Store. So you can go into the App Store and look for the MyShake app, and you can download this app onto your phone. It is free. So this app will then provide you with free notifications and alerts on your phone of an upcoming earthquake if one is going to impact the area where you are. This slide here shows the thresholds for earthquakes for the early warning system. So the alerting, the MyShake app is triggered with a magnitude 4.5 earthquake. Also, for earthquakes over a magnitude 5.0, you will receive a wireless emergency alert. So you will receive that regardless if you have the app downloaded on your phone or not. Those come out similar to the Amber Alerts that you receive on your phone. So as long as you have not gone in and deactivated those alerts on your phone, those are automatically set and you will receive those for an earthquake in your area. So now we've talked about your earthquake hazard, and we've talked about how you can receive notifications that an earthquake is going to occur. The next thing we want to make sure you know to do is to protect yourself. And this week is the perfect week to talk about this because we have ShakeOut coming on Thursday, 10/20 at 10/20. And we encourage all of you to participate and hope that you'll get your neighbors, families, organizations, and anyone else to join in and participate with you. We encourage you to practice drop, cover, hold on. If you're unable to do that, there are alternative ways for folks who may be needing mobility assistance on how you can protect yourself as well. If you go to the ShakeOut.org website or the earthquakecountry.org website, there's a lot of information on the different ways that you can protect yourself, considering any mobility issues and also location where you are should you experience strong shaking during an earthquake. Next important step, if you're inside and you do take cover, you do your drop cover, hold on, immediately following strong shaking, it's really important to take an inventory of the room and facility of where you're located before you get out and start to move around. In addition to protecting yourself, one of the other hazards that we look for is all of the things inside the facility or home where we are that could have become damaged or dislodged during strong shaking that could potentially injure you even after that strong shaking has stopped. Things could have weakened and still be in the process of falling or becoming dislodged. So things that you need to consider are storage lockers, bookcases, and filing cabinets. Anything high up or in top shelves that could fall or maybe didn't fall during that initial strong shaking but could be in the process of falling and could still potentially injure you if you're moving throughout your home or office or store or whatever facility you may be in. Pendant lights, false ceilings, ceiling tiles, artwork, televisions. Again, these are all things that have contributed to a lot of the injuries that we've seen in past earthquakes, and all of these things can be prevented, and I'll talk to you about that in a couple of slides. So here's some photos of some earthquake damage that has occurred in past earthquakes, and as you can see, it doesn't really take a super strong magnitude earthquake to cause some of this damage that you've seen. So it's really important after you feel that shaking to really take an inventory, take a look around you, see what hazards are in that area and things that could potentially fall and injure you. It's really important to think about those things. I know a lot of us panic because you felt this strong shaking. It's unnerving. That's a natural human reaction. But it is really important to look at these things because we've had folks, unfortunately, there was a woman following an earthquake up in Central California who was killed by a television that fell off the wall and landed on her. So something that simple that you don't really think about, you know, could really cause injuries and worse to folks. So we really stress upon this for people to think about this and take action in their homes. This is another photo here following the Ridgecrest earthquake. You can see all the damage that's in this store, and think about when you're in a store and shopping, you know, these things, while they look small, can fall off the shelves and cut you and or land on your head and could really injure you. So what would you do in this case if you're in a store and items may potentially be falling on you during strong shaking? We've talked to several people during education and outreach events that say, well, I'm just going to run outside. And we tell folks no for a couple different reasons. First of all, we don't want people trying to run while there's strong shaking going on. That's a really easy way to get yourself injured, and that not only will you be able to move about and get where you need to safely, but you won't be able to assist others should you have children or other folks in your home that need assistance following the earthquake. Also, there's things outside that are very dangerous that can also cause damage or injury to people, even during aftershocks. So again, remember, we're not just talking about this one large earthquake that's going to occur, but all of the aftershocks that can continue to cause damage following that large earthquake. So that can be landslides and rocks falling, other structure and debris, fires after earthquakes. We saw that in Ridgecrest, and we've heard about that after other earthquakes, down power lines, and if you're on the coast, tsunamis. Other things to think about is highways being disrupted and no resources may be able to get in and out of the area for a while. So that's why we always talk about having our go kits ready to go because we don't know how long it's going to take for those resources to get into the area. Water lines are disrupted, so you may not be able to turn on your tap and get water. Communication lines may be down. There may be limited or no phone service, and that goes for landlines and for cell phones, because those cell phone towers may be disrupted as well. Sewer lines, electrical lines, and gas lines. So all of those things are things we need to think about in not only our personal preparedness, but in our communities. What is that going to look like? Where's the damage going to be? What areas do we need to look out for, and how do we plan for that? So this is following the Napa earthquake, just to kind of give you a picture of a crack that occurred in a road. So it's pretty significant. Let's let you know that you may not be able just to drive down the street. You know, things around it look like, you know, there's not a whole lot of damage. Things look pretty normal, but then right here, you know, all of a sudden you might come up on something like this in the road. This here is a photo from the South Napa earthquake, and I show this photo because, again, we had an earthquake occur in Central California where someone did panic and went to run outside because they were in an older building and thought they would be safer. And unfortunately, a piece of facade fell off the front of the building, and it actually ended up killing this person. So again, we really emphasize that drop, cover, hold on. We want you to stay where you are, limit your movement. Running to another room, running outside, doing anything like that is not the best option for many reasons. Again, there's many things outside, not only the facade of a building, but again, the telephone poles are there, there's electrical wires, and there's other things outside that could fall and potentially injure you. So really important, drop, cover, hold on where you're at. And again, this just kind of shows the injuries and deaths that I talked about. The woman who got struck by her television, a $4 strap would have saved her life. $4 at Home Depot. And then again, the two people from the brick building in the San Simeon earthquake. So these are really unfortunate incidents, but you know, these three folks could still be alive if we really just make sure that we're getting out with our communities and emphasizing the drop, cover, hold on, emphasizing the protective measures to take during earthquake shaking and even after that strong earthquake, because again, the aftershocks can continue to exacerbate the damage and can continue to cause hazardous situations. So in talking about securing your home, there are some steps that you can take to help protect your home. If you have a home with a crawl space under it, it may qualify for the Earthquake Brace and Bolt program. That program is opening up tomorrow, actually, the 18th of October, and will be open through November 29th. They have grants up to $3,000 for home retrofits. And for folks with an annual income below the $72,080, you could potentially qualify for a 100% funded retrofit. So if you go to the Earthquake Brace and Bolt website on the California Earthquake Authority's website, they have additional information there. And there's other residential mitigation programs. So again, go on the California Earthquake Authority website, and there's information on there about the grant opportunities available and how you can qualify. Other items, as we talked about briefly, that you can use to protect your home is bolting your bookcases to the wall, securing water heaters, strapping televisions and securing artwork, securing valuables and breakable items, and storing equipment and supplies in safe but accessible locations. So all this information is available on the earthquakecountry.org website. I have a few of the illustrations of some of these items on this slide. There's a lot more than what I included here. We use the, through the Earthquake Country Alliance, we have the mini awards program. Private nonprofits can apply for these mini awards. They are granted to you, so it is at no cost to you. I highly encourage you to go to the earthquakecountry.org website or get in touch with Mark Benthian, or you can get in touch with me and I can connect you. And we have a lot of funding available in the pot for those mini awards, and we can help folks get some of these items that they need to secure items in their homes and your private nonprofit facility locations, and schools we've done, and other locations similar to that. So we really encourage folks to take advantage of this program. It'll help you start getting some of these mitigation steps and activities put in place to help protect folks in those areas. So this is kind of our grants calendar here. I know a lot of you are not involved in applying for hazard mitigation funding in your jurisdictions, but the BRIC program timeframe is opening up. And so there are those grant funds available. We don't have any other hazard mitigation grant funds available at this time. However, when that does open up, we will send that information out to folks. So talking about ShakeOut, we have that coming up again this week on the 20th. It is an opportunity for everyone around the world to get involved. It's a one-day event where we can all unite and do something together to help folks get more prepared. I pulled down this stat in the center for California. We had 9.2 million people registered as of, I believe I pulled that down Friday. So we've definitely got a lot of folks engaged this year. As you see, in 2019, we had about 10.8 million. So we're definitely ramping back up after the COVID pandemic, and more people are getting engaged again. And, you know, for us, it's not really just about the numbers, but that's how many people we're reaching. And we look at it as, wow, we're reaching at least 9.2 million people. And then hopefully those people are pulling in people to participate with them, because it's about protecting people. It's about informing people, and it's about saving people's lives and getting them engaged, getting them to learn about their earthquake hazards and starting to prepare. So in that, I look at this as just a really great opportunity to reach all these people. So I encourage all of you, if you have not already, talk to your families, to your coworkers, to any folks who are in your community or churches. Encourage them to participate, encourage them to get engaged, encourage them to learn about their hazard and how they can protect themselves and their homes. So this here is just kind of a slide that has some different websites on it, and I apologize that those that earthquake or the font color came out pretty light. But all of these earthquake websites have a lot of really great information. I also threw in the tsunamizone.org website. You all do have a small tsunami hazard, mostly in Bodega Bay, but a couple other areas on your coast. So if you like to frequent those areas, you definitely want to look at your tsunami risk. And then I put on the Cal OES My Hazards website on there. If you go to the My Hazards website, you can type in your address or the address of your business, your church, your kid's school, anywhere you frequent in your community, and it will tell you what hazards impact that location. So it's really kind of a great tool if you're curious, if you live in a liquefaction zone or a high fire hazard zone or anything like that. You just plug in the address there and it'll give you all the information about what hazards impact that area. So ready.gov is FEMA's website, and they have a lot of really great preparedness information on there. They have Go Kits available on there. You can take a look at what they include in those and what's on those. Again, I have the Earthquake Brace and Bolt website on there. The conservation.ca.gov website, you can also type in tsunami.ca.gov and you click on that, and that gives you all of the tsunami hazard areas for the entire state of California. So you can click on any of the counties. It'll give you a Google Earth map. You can zoom in and see, if you're curious, you know, where tsunamis might impact any county in the state. You can go check it out and take a look there. So that is all I have at this time, unless there's any questions.
Thanks, Yvette. I think we'll take questions after our complete presentation about earthquakes.
Okay, great, thanks.
And now I will share my screen to get Nancy and my presentation up. This is your part, Nancy.
Do you want to go ahead and put it in slideshow?
Yes. There.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. So I'm actually going to maybe do a little repetition here. Thank you, Yvette. That was a super awesome presentation and very thorough. One thing I did want to mention just right off the bat is you probably won't see much from our department on ShakeOut. For those of you who don't remember last year we decided that we would do the ShakeOut on April 18th in Sonoma County. Because it just keeps getting in the way of fires. And while I'm grateful there's no fire this year, we just have a hard time making plans without ever knowing what's going to happen in another week or two. So we decided last year that we would do the Sonoma County ShakeOut on April 18th, which is the anniversary, of course, of the San Francisco 1906 earthquake. And so stay tuned for that. But having said that, you cannot practice drop, cover, and hold too many times. So please go ahead and drop, cover, and hold on Thursday, and then go ahead and drop, cover, and hold in April again. And I think it's really important, and I just wanted to kind of reiterate a little bit. There's so, you know, I'm like to be a little academic from sometimes. So let me just tell you a couple of interesting things. So the 2001 earthquake, a 6.8 in the state of Washington, most of the people who were admitted in the hospital were slightly older. They were actually all often females, so there was more females than men. And the most common injury was falls trying to move during the shake. So keeping in mind that wherever you are is the perfect place to drop, as opposed to, oh, let me go across the room and drop over there. Drop where you are. You can then crawl over if you want to get under a table or something, but walking is the most dangerous thing to do in an earthquake in terms of getting injured when it was unnecessary. In the earthquake, the Northridge earthquake in 1994, objects falling on people's head was one of the most common injuries. So definitely, if you can get crawling under a table, and if not, be sure to protect your head and neck, which is that cover portion of it. And then, of course, the reason you hold on is because wherever you are is likely to move. So that holding on is critical to make sure that you stay under cover. If you are in bed, just stay there. Grab your pillow, put it over your head. And so these other descriptions are showing you other things you might do when you're trying to stay safe as soon as the shaking starts. So you get about no seconds to react when the ground shakes. We all remember just a few weeks ago an earthquake, and by the time you realize it's an earthquake, you are in it. So it's time to drop, cover, and hold right then for maximum safety. The other thing I want to say is shoes, shoes, shoes. Glass in your feet is another very common reason that people end up in the hospital. They're in their bed, they're safe, then they get up and step on glass that broke from the window immediately. So if you have an old crummy pair of shoes that you just want to tuck under your nightstand or under your bed, that's just always just going to be there. So if you do need to get up, you have shoes you can put on immediately. If you see that there's dangers from broken glass and things like that, you won't have to try to bear that glass to get to your shoes. Next slide, please. So Yvette talked a little bit about the alerts. One thing I did want to let you know is you didn't receive a SoCo alert on September 13th, and you would only receive a SoCo alert if we needed you to perform an action for your safety. So if we needed you to shelter in place, or if we needed you to evacuate a specific area because there was a gas leak, those would be the reasons, not just because there's an earthquake. So I think it's important to tell you that, and so that you can tell others in your community, because we did get a lot of comments from people who were like, I didn't get a SoCo alert. And we're like, yep, we didn't send a SoCo alert. As a matter of fact, we haven't sent a SoCo alert in so long, people are now asking us that they're still signed up, because we just have not had a life safety issue in a really long time in Sonoma County, the longest time we've gone since I've been here. So I feel very grateful that we haven't needed to send one. And if you do get a SoCo alert from us, it's because we need you to take specific action. So pay attention to that and then do whatever that is that says. And then the next slide. So your home emergency supply kit. So you all have a go bag. I know that we have a huge number of people in the county that have go bags. So that is typically what we ask you for in your go bag, is for 3 days worth of food, water, and emergency supplies. Now, what you want to have for your shelter in place kit is at least 7 days. And when I say at least 7 days, that really is the minimum. So people who are living in tight quarters, who don't have a lot of space, try to find a place for 7 days worth of food, water, and emergency supplies. If you can supply yourself with a couple of weeks, do that. I'd like you to picture a really large earthquake and how many roads we have in the county and how hard it is going to be for county inspectors to evaluate roads, bridges, all of these different things before we feel comfortable with the public being on these roads and highways. So in a large earthquake, the first thing that has to happen is they have to be inspected to find out if they're safe, especially bridges. So it's really important that you're prepared to stay at home. And that also means, so we've all gotten really used to having Uber Eats and these other people bring us what we forgot at the store. Remember, if everybody's off the road, everybody's off the road. So that includes your favorite restaurant and those types of things. So really try to get that 7 days worth of food and supplies in your home so that you can be able to stay there while the county and the state and federal agencies are reviewing all of the different infrastructure in the community to find out what's safe and what's not. And I will turn it over to you, Diana.
Thanks, Nancy. So what I want to cover is just to give you some suggestions that you might want to consider to help improve your chance of survival and your house's chance of survival, especially within the house. This last year, I've been researching a lot, and I've done earthquake reducing risk for my own home. So here are, there's the first three here are ways to secure bookcases, secure cabinets, and then also on the right is for the television. So what you need to do is actually evaluate your situation. Certain things are going to work better for the situation that you're in than others. But when you're securing things, for instance, the bookcase or that large TV stand, you need to make sure that you are securing into a stud, or you secure a 2x4 into the wall and then you secure there. So you need to have on two ends at least. The Velcro straps there are very easy. I've used those. I have an example later of those I'll show you. Now these are for doors, and think about ways that you used to childproof your house. I went through and tried to find something that would work for me that I would use, because when my daughter was out of the toddler stage, I was so glad I could get rid of those things. So it's something that you're going to actually use. If you put it on and you don't use, it's not going to be worth anything to you. The first one here, this one works really well. It's zip ties, but like for my doors handles there, it's a little too close. So they don't, I can't lock it all the way. It's like I said, so you have to evaluate what's going to work for you and what's not going to work for you. The one on the right works really good for those type of handles. It's basically bungee cord material, and it's easy to come on and off. I have that on my mineral cabinet and in my garage. So those are some things to look at. And there are a lot more other devices out there that you can use. These are just to give you examples of what you can look at. The quake hold has a lot of different items you can use to help. And this putty works really well. I have used this to secure the pictures on my walls to the point where I am actually concerned when I have to take them down that some of the drywall is going to be coming with it, but it does work really well. This picture here, I have them underneath the vases. It's going to hold, but keep in mind too, if we get a large quake, in the high 6 points, I don't believe this is going to hold. So I know that there is still risk. What I have done is reduce my risk and evaluated what I'm willing to still have. So just an example, reiterating what Yvette said about, make sure your water heater is secured, at least in 2 spots, and secured really well. The picture on the right is an example of material you can buy to help secure your shelves. It's similar to bungee cord material, but I actually have just used bungee cords. So this year I went through my garage because my garage was an earthquake disaster just waiting. I knew that. So the upper shelf, I put in a ledge because on that side is my water heater. So there's a higher risk if something fell off in that direction. And I rearranged things so if it fell, went against the wall and used the bungee cords. The picture over to the right are more bungee cords, but I also used the ratchet straps, which worked really well on bookcases, bench, and the large metal shelves. And then bungee cord, all the things that are on the shelf. The two bottom ones are my workbench. And I didn't know until I started doing this that my workbench was not even secured to the base. So I had to secure that down. And then I took everything off the pegboard because I couldn't find anything that was going to stay up there if there was a good earthquake. And those could be projectiles. What I did instead, I resorted to these metal baskets that I nailed to the top of my bench. And now I use those. And I have the toolbox. And then over to the right is the beneath on the book bench that I put another ledge and use more bungee cords to secure things. So like I said, you know, you take a look at your house. What are the risks? You know, are things falling? Could they spill? What's beneath that it could fall onto, and how heavy are the materials? What are you going to need to secure, and what are you willing to have a risk factor of? These are more resources. I don't think I duplicated anything that Yvette gave you. If you're interested in the Hayward Fault, which is a big factor for us up here, because if there's a large quake on the Hayward Fault, we're going to feel it up here. And so this upper right one will give you information about that. And the bottom one, just to remind you that our COPE's Emergency Preparedness Guidebook has a whole section on earthquake preparedness that you can go through. We also have in there some of the maps from Sonoma County, the mitigation maps in there that you can take a look at for information of the liquefaction and earthquakes, fault areas. So I want to end it up just talking about COPE. You know, when I talk about COPE scenarios to people, I use a strong earthquake as the example where I believe the COPE groups were going to come in the most beneficial. So it's not we evacuate and we get out of here so much. It's when the large quake hits and we can't evacuate. So we are stuck here because the roads are buckled, the power lines are down. A lot of different things that are going to restrict us from getting out of our neighborhood. In those situations, you know, our first responders are going to be extremely busy. They're not going to be able to come into our neighborhood. So we need to work with each other. That's when we're going to have to rely on our neighbors. That's when knowing who has the resources there, who needs the special attention when there is a disaster. Sharing the food, sharing the water, and things like that. So learning and getting to know your neighbors ahead of time before something critical like this happens is very important to do. And so what I want to do now is we are going to do breakout rooms. And then we'll have questions afterwards. But the breakout room, what you're going to do is you're going to tell each other where you would right now in the room you are in. If there was an earthquake, where would you drop, cover, hold on? And then after you go around and everyone says that, then discuss what hazards you have right there in your room. You know, example, same things that Yvette said. So for me, I have chandeliers, I have a rolling printer under my desk, so getting under my desk may not be a great idea. My window is over here. You need to stay 10 feet away from the window. Those type of things. And it's something that's nearby, like you don't run into the other room. So as I'm doing the breakouts, if you could go ahead and just take a look around your room, and then you can discuss. And I think we'll just do 5 minutes for that. And then after that, everyone come back. Welcome back. So I just got a notice on my phone for the My Shake on October 20th notice. So.
You notice Jeff's group's not back.
Well, they're going to be forced soon to come back one way or another. There you go.
It is fun to break out in groups. That was a good idea.
So I highly recommend that you do practice the drop, cover, hold on, because you may be surprised on things. In my living room, I always thought that I was going to just get under my coffee table. It wasn't until I actually tried getting under my coffee table that coffee tables are very low. You don't just scoot under. I had to get on my stomach and, scoot around the leg and stuff. So it's not as fast. Are there any questions about any of the presentation?
Yes, what are ratchet straps? Oh, the kind you tighten? Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, so they're large strap that has the handle that you wrap.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
You can get.
I just wanted to give a tip or a recommendation is that we used to keep our wrench for turning off the gas in a drawer in the garage, and I got a some kind of attachment. I think it was, and I've attached it actually to the gas meter, so no one has to look for anything to turn off. And I think the other piece, maybe Marshall can talk about turning off gas, but I think Marshall, you talked about that in an earthquake, you're more likely to have to turn off your gas if you smell gas than for wildfires. So that's another thing to think about getting ready for earthquakes.
Yeah, I'll just add, just based on our last earthquake we had, which I think was like a 4.4, wasn't even that significant, that was the most common call that I heard fire departments being dispatched to. And some of it was in the cities where PG&E is a provider, but people that live in the rural areas might have their own propane tanks versus a gas line. So just knowing how to shut that off, or they should be anchored down as well, but just knowing how to shut that off, knowing how to shut your electricity off, it's all just good things to know about, because Hillsburg City not necessarily was inundated with calls, but they're dealing with fire alarms and then the smell of gas. So if you know how to shut that off, just can give you some extra confidence to be able to do it yourself under stressful conditions. So thank you.
Any other comments, questions about the earthquakes?
I had a question. Marshall, I thought that if you turned off your gas, you had to have PG&E come turn it back on.
Yeah.
Is that true?
I think it's true. And then you also need to worry about all your pilot lights too, getting help lighting those. So that's the complication, but I think it's better to be safe than sorry. So
for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Thank you for watching. You can follow us on our Facebook page and check out more emergency preparedness videos on our YouTube channel. Please share this video to help our county become better earthquake ready.